Hi there. Welcome to the Aligned Living Podcast. I'm your host, Kathleen Gellatly, and I'm super excited to have you join us. In these episodes, we're going to have some heart-to-heart conversations with experts, everyday wellness enthusiasts, and, well, anyone with a story to share about their journey towards a more balanced and harmonious life. Welcome to the Aligned Living Podcast, where well-being meets wisdom, and the journey is just as important as the destination. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Aligned Living Podcast with me, Kathleen Gellatly, and the beautiful RickyAnne from Aether Apothecary. Super excited to have Ricky here. So welcome to everyone. This is episode 9. Really excited to be going into this chat today. Ricky and I have already had a great conversation, which in hindsight, we thought we should have just recorded that chat because it was pretty much what we wanted to share with you all today. But then we were like, no, we'll just have another one because it was so great. So welcome to everyone who's listening to this over podcast, and welcome to those who are perhaps watching this on the YouTube channel. Thanks for joining. Please make sure to like and comment if you have any questions. Give the page a follow, and at the end of the episode, as well as in the episode notes, you'll find all the details on how to find all the information that was chatted about during this conversation. But I'm going to hand over to Rix. Rix, thank you so much for joining me today. I feel like I'm actually still buzzing from our previous conversation, and it's such a pleasure to have you. I think we're just going to start with a little bit of an intro into you, who you are, kind of a little bit of your upbringing. I always think that's a great place to start.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Kath. And what an honor it is really to be here and talking to you again. It's amazing being able to connect with people on this level, irrespective of space, time. It's incredible. So thank you so much for having me. My name is RickyAnne. I go by Rix, and I'm in South Africa. I was raised in Johannesburg on a beautiful piece of land. It was really a little pocket of paradise. When I think about it, I can sort of just hear the rustling of the wind between the gum trees and walking through the forests and lots of flower gardens. And being an only kid growing up, it was really my space of solace. I've never been someone who enjoys a lot of noise, a lot of crowds, a lot of the humaning thing. I've always been a lot more attuned to a slower, quieter pace of life. And so those gardens were just, my place of refuge where I could really find and sink into just being. The animals around, the friends that are in the form of plants, the trees, always the safest place I knew. And having really beautiful parents who are so supportive and that have inspired me every day and always just are so open and welcoming to all of my crazy and wacky, wonderful potions I would have going. They always supported my kooky lavender teas and mud pies, irrespective of what I did. I think that's where it all started, really, is I was in the garden finding safety and just became curious. I think as children, we are so curious. We like to touch things and smell things and taste things, and probably a few things I shouldn't have tasted, but I'm here today, so it all worked out fine.
And I'm sure with quite a good immune system as well.
Yeah, exactly. A good tolerance, that's for sure.
I love so much how many times you said safety, now finding safety in nature. Often we think of, I saw a post the other day that said, go outdoors, go be in nature. And the post was all about saying, but you don't have to go and be in nature, like you are nature. And I think that when we spend time in the natural world, that is not the buildings, that's not the concrete, it's that reminder that, we are of the earth and the earth is of us, and that is actually our natural home. This is our first home, and then the earth is our second home, and then we've built these other little pockets of apartments and buildings or whatever. Yay, industrial revolution. All these things, but I really love that you brought in safety. And that's something that I work quite closely, I think, with my yoga classes as well. As it's my number one priority is, are my students safe? Are they feeling safe? And ultimately, you do a lot of work with the nervous system as well, that really is such a key factor in our health journey. So I love that. I think that everyone can highlight that question, and which I think is the power of feeling safe is such a privilege that so many people don't have in this world. And I actually mentioned, and I taught a class just before this podcast, and I mentioned that in the session to be, can you be grateful right now that you're in a safe space where you can move your body, where you can do all the things you need to do. And that the other little mention, because it's something you said in our chat, and it's something that I know Annette Miller, another friend of mine, speaks of, is plants as allies or plants as friends. And I guess that is what led you to creating Aether Apothecary. And I'd love for you to give us a little bit. I know you said as well that you and your partner were like, well, we're kind of trying to remember how it all started, but it all just kind of happened, and now we don't really know exactly how it all happened, but it did. And I'm sure that all has a lot to do with your close relationship with the plants that you are now working with. I'd love for you to tell us a little more about Aether Apothecary, kind of where you guys are based and what it is you do, and then we can jump into the goods of the details.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. And just touching on that safety, I think plants, and this very much leads into the medicines themselves, is that they remind you of our natural cycle of being alive, of being in life. We are a part of this innate cycle, this movement, this flow. There's this intrinsic connection we have with every little blade of grass around us, no matter where you are, be it the dandelion growing out of the crackles in the parking lot, no matter what it is, it's always all around you. The medicine is there, whether it's in a tincture bottle or not, it's always there for you to access. And yeah, I think having that understanding growing up, being exposed to natural medicines, playing with herbals, being inquisitive, intrigued by how can I make my own face creams. I don't want to go buy them at the shops. I want to make it. I always have wanted to make stuff. And yeah, the co-founder and I was busy studying at the time, and we have talked in the past. We said, how on earth did Aether start? How did we get the name? How did we figure it out? And there must have just been like a lapse, like a glitch or something, a direct download that was like, okay, this is what we're doing now. And yeah, like I say, I was studying. The co-founder would do a lot of the markets, and that's how we started. We started in little market setups, doing first like soaps and experimenting, figuring things out, making salves, soaps, teas. And the teas was really where we became quite a hit, because it was really about reconnecting people to what are you taking? What are you having? And so we had this big bookshelf of jars that we take to every market, and all the jars are different herbs in them. And someone would come and say, oh, I've got stomach upset or something. And we'd pull out the jars, let them smell it, let them, really connect with what they're taking, blend them a little custom tea, and boop, there's your medicine tea to take home. And that really became such a, with hindsight, such a valuable experience, because we were learning on the fly as well. At that stage, I had just had my experience of growing up, natural curiosity, the co-founder the same, natural curiosity, reading, no formalized training though. And so a lot of that taught us, we keep getting asked about, anxiety. Let me go and research more herbs, more medicines other than the ones that I know, where can they correlate? Where can they correspond? Where's the overlap? And so that was really valuable. And then we saw, okay, people really struggle with certain themes. And that's where our ailment tinctures were born. The colds and flu, at that stage we had focus and energy, and they've obviously evolved with time, but a lot of them still have their old names, like the colds and flu, the hormone, the sleep. They're all sort of odes to the originals. And yeah, so we lost a lot of things along the way, we gained a lot of things along the way, and it's really been a beautiful organic process of using textbook money to buy jars and going to markets and buying some more jars for the next one. And yeah, it's a blessing to be able to very humbly be the beings that have been gifted the chance to speak for nature on her behalf, to really show the potential to reconnect people and say, wow, like, it's more than a cup of tea. It's immense healing. And yeah, that's just sort of a brief synopsis of where this journey has taken me and Aether, and how it continues to grow.
Oh, thanks so much. So many things come to mind as you were talking now. And I know one of the other things that you work a lot with is medicinal mushrooms. And you're the largest distributor of medicinal mushrooms in the country, right? In South Africa.
Yeah, we've got the broadest range of different mushrooms that we supply.
Wow. And how did that also just happen through starting to do more research and starting to go, well, I want to go into different species of plants? Or what's your relationship? Is it a medicine that you've used?
Yeah, definitely. So it actually all, again, it started with the basic herbs that are immensely powerful, and quite a lot about them. As soon as you start digging into the herbal world, your chamomiles, your valerians, your lavenders, your rosemaries, definitely the firmest allies we have. They're like the gatekeepers, they're like, come on, we've got a whole world to show you. And so those were our beginners. And as we learned, certain mushrooms just started peeking their heads in. They were like, hello, look at us. And at that time we were in Cape Town, and so when you go on a walk in the forest, you'll sort of see a mushroom. Mainly there it was like turkey tail mushrooms, some split gill, and you start getting interested. But the one that really stood out to us at the time was reishi. And reishi is, it's like Aether's favorite baby. It's like what really got us into the world of mushrooms. And she is known as Queen of the Mushrooms. In ancient Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, she's an all-around tonic for the medicine, has been used by Taoist monks, by the emperors. It was very rare and prized medicine. And it was only grown on one in every 20,000 or so plum trees, because that's the main tree that they have there. And of course, plum is a softwood, and reishi tends to prefer hardwood. And what was one of the most insane experiences was when moving out this side to where I am now, we have a lot of the hardwood species of the acacia and the knobthorn and even black wattle. And reishi love those trees. And so yeah, there's reishi out on our doorstep. Most of our tinctures are actually made using wild harvested reishi from the forests right here. Yeah, completely untouched land, very sacred. So yeah, it was a huge invitation. And as soon as we started working with reishi, we wanted to find out more. And then turkey tail got its way in, chaga got its way in. And the more you dive into these things, the more you want to know, the more you feel there is to share. And the world is so expansive. There's infinite amounts of medicines to tell their stories. And so, yeah, our range just keeps chopping and changing. We keep adding more things because we're like, it's just incredible. There's so much. And so many medicines, and there's so many diverse beings on this planet, so many different humans with different needs. And yeah, just as many plant allies and mushroom allies to help with those beings.
Oh, beautiful. And we are so unique. And this is something that you and I spoke about in our last conversation, was how self-care can often be misunderstood as something that needs to be a routine that you do, or that there are certain fixed things that is what self-care is, that is what I do for self-care. But actually knowing, and I think that's what plants teach us so well, is actually knowing, when is it a day for this? When is it a day for that? What is something that I can drink consistently every day that's going to help build? What is something that I only need once in a while? And that's, to me, that has such a beautiful lesson for us to learn with every aspect of self-care in our life. Is, maybe today is a day I get on my mat, maybe today is a day I need to go swim. Is knowing that
Exactly.
we are so unique as individuals, but even as an individual, every day is so unique that, there's so many
Yeah.
factors that play into it. And I love how, you speak so much about, when you spoke about the making the individual tea blends for people, is that you also give them the opportunity to, like, taste it, smell it, feel into it, connect to it. Like, does this actually feel right to me? Because how often do we eat something or drink something, and while you're eating or drinking it, you're like, something just tells you, like, this is probably not what I need right now, or this isn't actually what I feel
Yeah.
like. But A, it was convenient, or B, it was here, or C, it's what's being offered, whatever the case might be. And again, coming, it's very privileged standpoint to really be able to pick and choose the food and the quality of food or drink that you're taking into your body. But if you've got that opportunity, how beautiful that you can use that as complete medicine, as complete, therapeutic allies to your health and wellness. I also had a laugh at you last time, because you were talking about kind of like, oh, the everyday herbs, this one that
Yeah.
everyone kind of knows that that's what it is and that's what it does. And I was like, I think people know about it maybe, but like, even myself, I have definitely not spent enough time diving into the benefits of our, let's say, our everyday weeds or our everyday plants that are around. You spoke about the dandelion that grows out of the cracks, or the rosemary, or the lavender. And I think it would be very interesting for listeners, especially those who are really beginning this journey with plants, is, what would you recommend are one or two plants that can either be bought when it's dried, or grown in a pot plant, that you could actually use for teas or tinctures, that you would recommend to almost anybody and it would benefit them?
Definitely. Yeah. I think one of my greatest allies that I have every day without fail of a doubt is chamomile. And I mean, what I love about chamomile is you can buy it anywhere. She's in Pick and Pay, Woolies, Checkers, health stores, discams. No matter where you go, you'll find a chamomile tea. And it's actually a little ritual. Every single evening, I make myself a chamomile tea. If you have lavender, what a beautiful ally to put in with that. You can get yourself a beautiful pot of lavender, plant it on your stoop. They enjoy being in pots as well. So great for having, if you don't have access to big land or even a small patch of land, beautiful in a pot. You put a few sprigs of that lavender leaf in with your chamomile and you'll have it before bed. What I love about those two medicines specifically is they're what are considered nervine relaxants. So working with the nervous system, they actually help to downregulate, to relax, to really release the tension within the nervous system, to be able to support the downregulation for the day, letting go of the excess cortisol, being able to really calm down. And the longer you take it, the more benefit you see. So it requires a degree of patience too. And I think that that's such a beautiful thing. If you're getting into herbalism, it's really important to know, yes, of course, you've got your direct acting quick acting herbs like rosemary, for example. Amazing if you've got a headache, amazing if you need to concentrate, if you really need to get into your studies. A good brew of rosemary tea is incredible. And it acts really quickly. The smells, everything, it just gets your brain in that zone. Chamomile and lavender require that calm, relaxed entrance into this practice. And so I suppose those three are, what a beautiful place to start. Chamomile, rosemary, and lavender. Some of the sweetest things, we cook with rosemary growing up as a kid. Lavender, you most often see as an ornamental in the garden, or have worked with the oil, maybe. Chamomile you see on the shelf. So it's all right there. And then just becoming curious. Like I say, there is dandelion growing everywhere. Just get to Google it, get to see what it looks like. Maybe harvest some leaves and take them home with you. She's a beautiful medicine for the liver and the kidneys. So yeah, I think getting curious is also one of the biggest medicines I can say for getting into herbalism. Just think, what does my body need? What do I need support with? And then a beautiful little touch of the fingertips Google search that we're so privileged to really have access to, or if you have access to a library or a book or something, just sort of eye it out and see what comes to you, because everyone does have their allies, and I'm such a firm believer in that your and my friends in the herbal kingdom and the mushroom kingdom will be so vastly different. And so I can't tell you what you need. I remember in our chat, we were saying how you're your own doctor. Like, be your doctor, be your own healer. Listen to that innate calling. Listen to, if something's like saying, like, it's grabbing your attention on the shelf, go look at it. If it's hibiscus, go learn about it, because wow, again, we're just in such a beautiful world. We may as well become a little bit more connected to it and to ourselves in that process.
Absolutely. And at Aligned Living, the ethos is be your own healer. And that can mean so many things. And when we were talking and you were saying, well, with Aether, you really believe, like, be your own doctor. And it literally, like, when someone says something and you just like, oh, why is that so brilliant? And why does that just connect so beautifully? It's amazing. And I love that you bring in be patient and don't, we're so used to this world of quick. I want a quick fix. And, in the end, it's not to be negative on anyone or judge anyone for like wanting to get better sooner. But I think very often our reasons for having to try and get back to health as quickly as possible is because of the responsibilities and the stresses that we have of modern day living. I know for me personally, when I get ill, it can drive my husband crazy, because he will just say, like, you've been sick for 2-3 days, let's please just get you to the doctor, let's get you better, And for me, because I work for myself and I can cancel a class or I can move a private, I can almost create a couple extra days and give my body a week or two to recover from a flu or something. But I've got that luxury to do that. And in that process, you learn so much and your body gets to kind of respond. And obviously you're trying to support it with things as you go along. But for most people, they don't have the luxury. You've got 3 kids, or you're a working mom and you've got a partner and you've got to get to work and you can't afford to take days off. So I think when you learn to work with these medicines is that it is a little more of a long-term game. And it's the same with yoga. And I mentioned this to you as well when we spoke, is that if you think of it as compound interest, something like compound interest, people are more than willing to put away money in an investment account and see their money grow, and how exciting to see that money grow and see it expand, And it's the same with your health, with your body, and on all levels. Is every little thing you do today is not just for this moment. The 60 minutes on your mat that you did this morning is not for the 60 minutes of this morning. That's great. That's a pure luxury to be able to like time out for like 60 minutes out of the world. But ultimately that is rolling into the rest of your day, how you're going to feel, and then that's going to determine potentially what the quality of your sleep is going to be. That's going to determine how you feel when you wake up the next morning. I don't know if you have kind of any thoughts on that. I'd love to speak to a little bit more about that, because I think that people knowing that, you know, investing in having patience and compassion with yourself and your body is so important.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I think in the world of healing in general, irrespective of the avenue you go down, I think one of the greatest lessons we can learn is compassion. You know, irrespective of your demands in your day-to-day life, irrespective of how much you have to do, your to-do list, how long it is, if you have 2 minutes to be kind to yourself, that is a medicine in and of itself. Just to be able to take a breath, take a moment to be present in your being, and to say, you know, not to be hard on yourself. I think we live in a world that's so fast-paced, so full of criticism, so full of doubt, so full of lack mentality, that we're not often afforded the chance to go, I'm doing pretty good. You know, I'm doing the best I can. I really am, and I'm showing up great today. You know, I didn't get the greatest night's sleep, but I still managed to do 5 things. Maybe I didn't do 8 things on my list, but I did 5. That's amazing. And I think this is something that, you know, irrespective of your schedule, we can do that. Irrespective of circumstance, we can do that. We can show up for ourselves in the way that we would for those that we love. And how would we do that? We would do that with absolute compassion, with a cup of tea, a warm hug, an ear, a shoulder, a lap, you know, irrespective, we would provide. And so providing yourself that same space with the resources you do have is the ultimate investment, because the more we're able to invest in ourselves, the more we're able to fill our own cups. It's such a cliche, but it's so true. If we are able to nourish ourselves, it allows us to better nourish other. And it allows us to better show up in the world in our authentic self space. Because all that we're really asked to do in this life is to show up authentically as we are. If that's in a space of illness, if that's in a space of strength, if that's in weakness, in a vulnerability, in a joy, that's what we're meant to do. That's how we're meant to show up in that time. And each experience has its medicine in its own right. You know, the joy has its medicine just as much as the pain does. Sometimes sitting in sickness, like just having to rest and being so uncomfortable with not being able to do all those things, that is the medicine. That is such a teaching of like, whoa, slow down. There's a cycle here. And so, yeah, I think that just that investing of time is the ultimate. And if you have the ability to go and harvest your own herbs, to be able to invest in a tincture or just anything really that calls you into your yoga classes, into baking a cake, you know, I think it's also it's not exclusive. The healing journey doesn't mean, it's not a one fit all. It's not now you have to give up all of the whatever you want to call it. You know, you can still have your cake, you can still have your beautiful rituals of life, because it's a part of the process.
No, I could not agree more with you. And so coming from someone who's quite an extremist, I can really swing from one way to the other. And I think, you know, it's taken me a long time to try and find better alignment in my life and better balance in my life. And I'm definitely not there yet where, you know, I'd ultimately like to be. But to know, I think to remember to not give up on yourself, and to not forget why you started in the first place. Because very often we, especially when it comes to like health and wellness and things, you know, there's so many fads that happen. And now, I mean, I'm literally speaking out of experience now. All of a sudden you're doing yoga every single day,
you're only drinking water, you're only eating salads, or then you like start drinking green powders, or then you're on smoothies, or then you are now drinking this tincture or that vitamin, or whatever the case might be. And ultimately, how many of us have done it for a month or two or whatever, and then it stops because it's not sustainable, because you're not doing it authentically and you're not actually reflecting on, but is this thing that my ego, that the mind has made up is good for me? Is this actually serving me? It might not be doing me any harm, but ultimately you can eat a piece of cake in pure joy surrounded by people you love, and your body will process that cake and that sugar or whatever better than if you are stressed and your nervous system is on fire and you're eating a salad. So really being kind with yourself and starting slowly, starting small. Like, don't feel like you need to go out and go plant an entire garden of herbs now and know that you now need to know every single one so that you can drink this for that and this for that. Start with a chamomile. And I'm going to use this as a little bit of a segue, because this is one of the questions that I had for you. Was very often, I mean, I don't know if you were telling me that in South Africa, the regulations and legislations around something being organic or locally grown or whatever, there isn't really a body regulating these things. So people can actually just put on their box, this is the healthiest, most organic thing that you've ever had in your entire life, and put an official looking sticker on it. And so for me, I'm very wary of alternative healthy option products. It's quite interesting because obviously a lot of these things are 3 to 4 to 10 times more expensive than the normal brand. And, comparisons have been done where like the healthier option is actually almost identical to like the normal option. And so my question for you really was, I was very interested to hear about the process of how you work with your plants, how you make your tinctures, because for me, even going into a wellness warehouse and looking at 10 boxes of chamomile tea, different brands, and my heart trying to go, but which tea was sourced the most sustainably? Like, it drives me crazy. And then I end up not getting it because I'm like, but what if the tea bags are made, then they've got, a lot of tea bags have microplastics in them that people don't know. And so it's I think that can be quite a struggle as well. And so I think I'd love your opinion on that, on the broader conversation of free range or organic or locally grown in our country. But then also specifically, I would love for you to share the beautiful process of Aether and how you make your tinctures and things, because that whole process is fascinating.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think again, that compassion thing comes into play in such a big way in answering this question. When walking into your health shop, first of all, it depends on accessibility of where you are. Where I am out in the Bundus, I have like maybe 2 health stores, 3 health stores in the closest like city. It's not really a city, and I'm not always going to have access to the most sustainable option. But what I like to do is I like to look at the companies. I like to look at the ethos of the place I'm getting it from. Most often I'll go for the small guys, because the small people are the people who they're doing it for passion. A lot of them are startups. A lot of them are doing it because they care. And so it might not be the most sustainable ever, but it's going to be with the best of what they can. And so I always say that, do the best with what you have, with what you can. If that means you can have microplastics in your tea bag, that's maybe all you have access to, and that's okay. Your body is resilient. You can handle it. And you have handled it. Your body is an incredible thing. So if that's what you have access to, that's fine. I will always suggest loose leaf tea over a bag, because it just means also you get to see it, you get to smell it, you get to like feel the texture of the plants. So if you're able to get a loose leaf from a small company, even better if you have access to farms, even better if you have access to seed and you can grow a little window box of chamomile in your kitchen. So yeah, just looking at what you have accessibility to, and then following that internal guide, maybe taking some photos at the health store, Googling them when you get back home. And if they don't have a website, you probably know that they're the ones, because they're literally just doing it for the medicine. They're so small, they're so tiny. Yeah, I love supporting small farmers and small businesses. And
take a breather and explore the Align Living on-demand video library, along with our exclusive membership perks. Plus, our YouTube channel is already up and running, offering even more wellness content. Your path to holistic living is just one click away. Visit our website to learn more. And now, let's return to our inspiring discussion.
That's a big part of Aether as well. You know, we try our very hardest to sustainably source our herb. And when it comes to our extraction, you know, we did also originally start off in the traditional way, which is what is known as the folk method. And the folk method of making tinctures is where you expose herbs to a certain percentage of alcohol depending on the herb itself. So flowers, for example, would have a lesser strength of alcohol compared to roots. And those plant materials, the raw plant, is left in a jar for about 30 days. And it just naturally extracts. The alcohol extracts naturally the whole process. And that's generally-ish a rule of thumb when it comes to tincture making. When you go into the stores, that's usually what you'll find, unless you see on the back of the label. Sometimes they'll use words like dual extraction or something like that. But at Aether, we are always trying to step it up. We're always trying to figure out, how can we make the best possible medicines? How can we ensure that we are extracting everything and really working with the medicine? You know, we are now spokespersons for these allies, and we want to help the allies to achieve their greatest potential within the human physiology. And so what we recently have now, we worked really hard doing a ton of research, and we got extraction equipment in from China, which is actually used in making traditional Chinese medicine. The co-founder went deep down a rabbit hole of like, what are we going to use? How are we going to figure it out? And yeah, these incredible machines basically cooks our extracts under pressure. And so if you think of a good old pressure cooker like your Oma had, you know, it's vacuum sealed. So it's airtight, vacuum sealed. And which that means that the boiling pressure of the water and the ethanol is at a lower temperature, which means the damage to the actual plants itself is less. So in terms of those cell walls, because the boiling point is lower, it's able to extract more. And because it's under pressure, it also means your essential oils and things like that don't just evaporate. So you're not losing anything in essence. So we do a 99% proof lab grade food safe ethanol made from sugarcane, very sustainably done. We do that. Then we do a water extraction as well, done in the same method. And then we basically make a tar. It's a concentrate. So we take our extract and we put it in a machine called an air still. And the air still basically evaporates off all of the liquid, and you're left with like a tar. It's this beautiful tar at the bottom of the air still pot. And we add all of those three components together, and we run it through what is called a homogenizer. And a homogenizer is basically a high-speed blender that breaks up all of the cells and all of the particles into nano microns, like these tiny, tiny, tiny little particles, so that it's more able for your cells, when you ingest it, your cells are able to actually take it in a lot easier. So it's a lot more bioavailable for the body. So you're getting that alcohol, ethanol extracting, you're getting the water extraction, you're getting the resins, and then it's getting homogenized down. And a big reason why we were so adamant on especially doing the water and the ethanol both is because there's certain compounds that are only water soluble and there are others that are only ethanol soluble. Meaning that, for example, with reishi has a really hard exterior and it needs to be cracked down. It's got really tough chemicals in it. Similar, actually, chemicals. It's called chitin, and it's what you find in the exoskeletons of insects, like beetles. It's that really hard chemical. And so chitin protects these cell walls, and the ethanol has to really like punch its way in there to open it up to get all the medicine out that it needs for the immune system, for the liver, and those sorts of things. Versus something like corn silk, which is in our joint health tincture. That is high in mucilage, which is really, really good for lubricating into your joints, into your tendons, and those sorts of things. And that's only really able to be extracted with water. So it was really important for us to really decipher which, there's certain things, they just get their medicine from different sources. And because we're looking at this like a modern day dispensary, we want people to receive medicine and feel results in the same way that they would if they have a flu for a week. You can have a flu for a week irrespective. If you take antibiotics or if you take echinacea, you can have a flu for a week. And so we wanted people to see, wow, I can take this blend, this cold and flu tincture for a week, and I can feel better than if I had taken antibiotics, because I didn't need to worry about all the side effects, take a probiotic. I didn't have a runny tummy. I actually feel stronger. And so, yeah, it was really important for us to really nitpick and evaluate how we do things. And we're always trying to continuously upgrade our systems as we learn and as we grow. And it's really exciting because it always feels like there's something new that we can look at, something that we can evolve into and discover as we grow as a medicine making company.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. I'm so blown away by the fact that you spoke about now with the exterior of the mushroom and the insects. And I was just like, oh, everything is so connected. It's like there's so many things we don't know. And I think for me, like, that's just again such an affirmation to, if you think like we are then not different from the mushroom or the insect, we are also the nature. And if we can really just see our bodies, and I often ask clients that walk into my class, I'll say, do you know anything about your nervous system? Do you know anything about your lymphatic system? I mean, and those are like the big systems of the body. Like, you've got a heart, okay, you've got eyes, but have you ever thought about the tissues? Have you ever thought about the cells? Have you ever thought about that, when you breathe, there's the mechanical aspect of the respiration going in and out of the body, but the respiration takes place on a cellular level. And I mean, you and I are very nerdy about this, and I know a lot of people who are going to be listening to this are quite nerdy about this. And I think that that's so exciting, is when you start to, biohacking is such a big thing now. And I heard you say for your body to be able to, I think you said uptake the actual particles, to actually be able to get it within the body. And how many of the products that you get on shelves, like multivitamins or whatever the case is, that are actually just not things that your body really can or wants to absorb. And when you go into nature and you go into these little chemicals and the elements that are so like, it's part of the body, it's part of the nature, the body is going to take it in so much more graciously and so much more enthusiastically. That's just, I mean, fascinating. I could literally speak to you about this forever. Thank you so much. I'm really fascinated by people's passion behind what they do, and the actual authenticity of what they're doing, I think is so powerful. Just like we were having a bit of a laugh last night, because obviously it's Rugby World Cup and the Springboks played their first game last night, and watching them play, and we all just said, we feel like, all the teams have probably as good technical skills, they've had as good training, they've put in all the work, but I almost feel like the South African team has a different energy to them, like their mindset, their connectiveness, their passion. And I'm not taking away from any of the other teams. I know I probably sound very biased, but I mean, I think as South Africans, we have like a special thing, but that special thing, the essence of the team, not the skills, not the knowledge, not the anything. And I think that's what I love about Aether, and what I love about you is, yes, you've got the knowledge, you've read the books, you are someone like me who continue to educate yourself, things are ever changing, but it is the essence of what you do that really, really stands out. And so when it comes to being your own doctor and being your own healer, I think, again, it's important to remember, you know, we've spoken about this a few times, kindness and compassion to yourself. Don't worry that you don't know everything. You're probably never going to know everything, and there'll always be someone who knows more and always be someone who knows less. But it is your essence of caring about yourself. That is the magic, because whether you then eat the cupcake or whether you then eat the salad, it's going to be interpreted very, very differently within your body. I also, and I'm going to use this again, like as a segue, as these conversations go, the work that you're also doing, because one of the questions I had for you was your work with indigenous South African or African plants, and also the indigenous people that I know that you're working with, you know, locals and people from this land. The Sangomas in your area, I know, are people that you've worked with. Their knowledge of the plants and the understanding of the energetics around all of these allies, and using it as medicine and using it as ritual and intention. So I would love for you to maybe speak a little bit about that. I know you've got some ideas in the pipeline. I don't know what you can share or can't share, but yeah, I think that would just be very interesting as well for someone who I know is really working so hard at being sustainable, being proudly South African, and also supporting the traditional doctors of this country.
Yes, of course. Yeah. So there are a lot of South African medicines that we are using, and they're incredible in their benefits. I mean, like I said, our reishi is harvested right here, you know, right on this beautiful land that I have the privilege of being on. And there are many of them. You know, there's African potato, which is an incredible medicine for the immune system and for things like prostate cancer. There's an amazing, our only indigenous adaptogen called cancer bush, which has, I mean, if I have a cold, I take cancer bush and the next day, that little itch in the throat is gone. Such a powerful ally. And there's so many of them. I mean, there's African meshima. There are countless medicines that are, again, available right at our fingertips right here. And I think because there is such a expansive sharing of herbals when it comes to European medicines, American medicines, things that we know quite well, like the chamomiles, like the rosemaries, you know, those sorts of things. We know them really well because they grow very easily, but also because they come from a certain school of teachings, which has been the mass teaching and the mass source of knowledge for the longest period of time. But that doesn't mean that those which haven't had the same privilege or the same opportunity to speak can't share a story that's as true or that's as powerful. And so it's really important to take note of that. You know, things like heliochrysums, you know, the impempo. Heliochrysum is one of the most incredible medicines when it comes to treating tick bite fever, you know, making an oil and using it for acne. I'm learning so much being on this land and working with people and finding out things that I would never have known otherwise, because it's a verbal history, it's a verbal teaching. Much like the witches, much like most beings who are healers, it's told through story, and through mother to child you learn how to heal. And so yes, that's also something that I'm really hoping to dive into deeper, is fortifying. On the podcast I recently started, the Aether podcast, I really focus on story, on sharing story, because I think there's so much power in that. And so, yeah, so on the farm, we're based in a really small village just before the Transkei, and on a beautiful piece of land where my partner and myself live and Aether runs. And we have women from the village who come, and they have been trained in making the medicines, and they basically running production of Aether, and they are just the most incredible human beings. I'm so grateful for them. And yeah, the land here it's felt and bush and indigenous, and so that's also a huge thing, to be a custodian over land and have no intention for it other than
Mm,
to just be wild and be what
mm,
it is.
mm,
So that's a huge intention for majority of the land, just to be wild and be a safe haven for the animals and for the plants to just exist in. I think that's really important that we create pockets of that. But another section of what we want to do is we do want to, in time, start growing our own medicines. And we want to work with people in the area who are medicine makers, who are medicine people, the Sangomas and Inyangas, and whoever has experience in making medicines or knowing of medicines. We want to provide a space for people um, to share what they have to learn, and a lot of preservation of cultural knowledge and of history, and for there to be a unification in the sharing of medicine and the sharing of healing. And so there are lots of projects that we're working on as an individual, in my capacity, within Aether, within the farm, within everything. There's a
mm,
big motion here where there's a lot of passion around sharing and around being in community. I think as someone who came from a city, even though I was on a nice plot, your home expands to your fence line. That's your home. And for the first time in my life, I'm coming to know what it feels like to have a home that's bigger than my fence line, where my home is the land. My home is beyond this farm as well. It goes all the way down and all the way over and into that valley and around, and it includes those people and these people and those people. And um to feel at home in a space and to be able to work with those people as family is, yeah, would it just feels like a dream come true, really, to be able to do something like that and to be able to share wisdom beyond what I could ever wish to attain, because it's something that's been passed down, something that is a gift to receive,
mm,
as is all of the knowledge that we have. But yeah, I think it's hopeful, and I think that that's a
mm.
beautiful thing to hold on to. Hope is a gorgeous thing.
Oh, wow. I feel like I'm going to take the last 3 minutes of what you just said and I'm going to cut it and I'm just going to like listen to that every single day. Oh no, it's so beautiful and it's so exciting and I can't wait. I can't wait to see how, everything grows and, like easy does it slowly, one foot in front of the other and letting it just grow and evolve and expand. And, it's the phrase, you said early on, it's a cliche to say, what were you saying about filling your own cup? And I think there's so many words that get overused in the wellness world as well, like something like organic, but wow, like how beautiful would it be if we start living in a more organic way where things just move at a natural pace and a natural rhythm and nothing is forced. There's a difference between like having power or forcing something, and in organic nature nothing is really forced. It happens and it evolves and it changes, and it will, because change is inevitable. I'm going to ask you to just reflect on one last question for us. Obviously here from Aligned Living is to ask you, what would you describe as an aligned life, or what leads you and guides you and is appealing to you about living an aligned life, or what does that mean to you?
I love that question. I think living an aligned life for me looks like just falling into the rhythm of nature around you, and I think we're so programmed into a certain pace of life, into a certain expectation that there's always this ticking cortisol time bomb going off, And for me, aligned living looks like waking up and how do I feel today? How do I feel today? It's windy outside. I feel a little windy in my head. I feel like I need to ground a little bit. I feel like that means maybe I need a slower morning. Maybe I need a slower yoga practice, and I'm not going to go for my run. I'll have a denser breakfast, or maybe other days it looks like, wow, it's a spring, hot summer day. I'm going to go outside and do stuff and go for my run and feel great, It's following that internal rhythm and that thing that guides us that no one really has an explanation for. There's that thing that binds us all, that intrinsic connection that makes it all just keep cycling around and around, and the sun will rise and the moon will set and it'll just keep going, and we're a part of it. And so falling into that part of itness and not feeding the separation.
Not feeling the separation. I'm going to actually ask you one more question, because I'm curious. What do you think, or what do you feel has been one of the most profound or beautiful either messages or lessons that you have received by working so closely with plants and with nature?
Wow. Sure. I think to receive. We're good at giving as humans. I think we're really good at giving and giving and giving and giving. And the medicines tell you, hey, I want to be there for you. I want to help you to heal. And I've seen this in my practice as well, in my consults. It's very hard to let it in, even life. It's very hard to let the cycles of life in. It's hard to let life in. It's hard to let love in. And so I think the medicines ask for us to just let them in. And it's a humbling thing because it requires an opening for you to drop the guard and to drop the ego and the chaos and the structures we've built up around ourselves, and to just sort of be bare as we are. And if sometimes that's sick, and that's okay. Sometimes that's well, and that's okay too. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I feel like there are just 1,000 golden nuggets of information in here. Thank you so much for sharing and making the time to be here. I can definitely see, I almost always end up saying this, there will be a part 2 because there's still so much to explore. I'm very excited for your new journey with the Aether podcast that you've launched now as well. So to anyone who is looking to get in touch with Ricks, I will put all the information in the show notes. You can head over to their website where they've got a beautiful array of products, the information about the products. It's so clear. You don't feel like you're going to get lost. You're like, okay, maybe I've never done this before. And you can go on and you can read about the products, beautifully laid out. You can head over to Instagram, chat to them over there, or just contact them via the website. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm like left feeling super inspired. I'm one of those people where I'm like, I'm going to the health shop now and I'm going to go buy all the teas and all the leaves. And then I'm going to stop at the nursery and I'm going to get myself a lavender plant. And I'm just like inspired. Yeah. So I think if anyone else leaves feeling the same way, this has been a brilliant conversation. Appreciate you so much. And I'm so grateful our paths have crossed, Ricks. Thank you so much.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, to many more, to many more.
Many more years of friendship, many more. And thank you to, well, sisterhood, actually. And thank you to everyone who has either given this us a watch or listen to this episode number 9. We're heading into the double digits with the next episode, which will be with another amazing woman who is opening an amazing fitness and lifestyle center in Cape Town CBD. So exciting things to come, and I hope you enjoyed it. And give us a follow, give us a like. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and wishing everyone a beautiful day ahead. So much love, Ricks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Aligned Living Podcast. We hope you found inspiration, insight, and a fresh perspective on your journey towards holistic well-being. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Remember, your feedback fuels our mission to bring you valuable content that aligns with your life. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, and feel free to reach out with your thoughts, questions, or suggestions for future episodes. We would love to hear from you. But until next time, take good care of yourself, embrace the present moment, and remember, you are your own healer. Thank you for being a part of our community. Goodbye for now.